Friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, copyrighted edition for a video channel. This is Huck TV, and we just got back from taking a walk in the woods. She was a good girl, walked all over. She was a trooper. She protected Dad. And then she said, well, I got to go in and make sure that you're going to do a good job for us on the footage. And I said, I promise. And she said, I'm coming in. And I told her, I said, there's a lot of good-looking dogs out there that are watching her, so she's got to be all neat and spick and clean, and she was. And she was huffing and puffing out there, but it's a good girl. Yeah. So she's going to hang out here with us as we do this segment. And this is a missing person segment. This is our second one back from Gatlinburg. So I appreciate you being here. One of the things that I forgot to show that someone built for me, it's beautiful, is this. There's Huck down there looking at a bird. Beautiful. And this person knew something. Obviously, because when we're out there, we have a lot of crows where we live. And it seems like when we're walking around, crows are flying over, sounding off at Huck, making noise, doing all kinds of things just to distract her. And it doesn't really matter how close they get. They drive Huck crazy. So I think they know they do, but that's all part of the game, I think, for the birds. So today we've got two cases that we're going to talk about, both in foreign countries. And the first case is one that is quite a puzzler. It's one of the few cases that we've ever come across from Japan. And Japan is one of those countries that in years past was predominantly all Japanese. You can't really say that for America anymore. We're the Heinz 57 of countries these days. But Japan really is mostly Japanese. And I don't know if that plays into why there aren't a lot of disappearances that match missing 411. But this is definitely one of them. And people have asked me in the past, Dave, how come we don't have more cases from Japan? I think a lot of the reason is language barriers. To find the finite details in each case, it takes us knowing the language sometimes. And I can't even find articles at times that I could translate, because translation these days is pretty easy. But in this instance, the case was very famous and it got a lot of publicity. The girl's name was Yuki Onishi. Oh, want to get up and go? Okay, it's okay. You did your job. There you go. Thank you. Yuki was 5 years old. This is a picture of Yuki Onishi. Missing April 29th, 1985. She was at the Kagawa Prefecture Goshikide Forest on Shikoku Island, Japan, which is southeast of Hiroshima. She was last seen wearing a long-sleeve red and orange shirt, bright colors, blue pants, and pink shoes. It was a national holiday in Japan. It was Greenery Day, and it's a day that families get together, enjoy the outdoors, have a picnic. On this specific day, at this specific location, it was a get-together to look for bamboo shoots and dig them up. That may sound odd to some, but not in Japan. Now, on the 29th, the Onishi family was planning to go to this event as a group. And in the family, they had Mr. and Mrs. Onishi, and they had an 8-year-old daughter and Yuki. Originally, again, the family was planning to go together, and just before they were ready to go, Mr. Onishi got a call from his factory, stated that they needed him to come in. And so the father went in, and the mom took Yuki and her 8-year-old daughter, and they drove to the event, and about 16 kilometers from their home to the event. They got there were about 60 people, and 16 families participated. Now, to describe this area there's a big drive that goes into it. There's a public building there. People can come in and enjoy the forest, hike trails, etc. This is the area where they had the day. Now the forest is very thick through this region and goes all the way out to the coast. Hiroshima on another island is over in this area. But this region right here is very thick and lush, and you just go outside and there's a very big population zone. They get there and they check in. Somebody there took down names. And it started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. At 1:30, Mrs. Onishi told investigators that Yuki had found her very first bamboo. And she was excited. And they dug up a little piece of it and they were going to keep it. And she went out looking for more. Mrs. Onishi said that she sort of lost track of Yuki. She was with her 8-year-old. And at 1:50, Mom realized that she couldn't see Yuki, and she started to get nervous and search. She started to walk through the area where the rest of the people were at and didn't see her. Started to walk into the forest area, didn't see her. At 2 p.m., the event ended. And some participants were helping Mrs. Onishi look for Yuki. Now, there weren't a great number of people here, only 60, and this was a pretty large forested area. Now, there were people in some other areas further near the coast that would camp out on the coast. It could get pretty remote out there. Forest is very thick. Some of the bushes in the area were knee-high or higher. And at 2 p.m., when people realized that someone was looking for a little girl, another person said they reported seeing her looking for other bamboo just a little ways into the woods. Not very far. So many of the people stayed over helping Mrs. Onishi search. At 3 p.m., the decision was made to call the local police and get more help in to search. Well, the police originally came, limited response, thinking it was probably nothing big, but they soon realized that this was going to be a huge, huge ordeal, and they called for more police. And at 3:45, the police decided that they were going to close the driveway in and out of that area. A driveway, it's really like a road. And they wanted to seal it so that nobody else would leave. This was a smart decision. And I could truly understand why they did this. Contain the people going in and the people going out. And they started to contain the people in the area where this organization was starting at 1 o'clock. So they kind of kept them in a group. They had a police dog that got there right after 3:45 and that was put on Yuki's scent. The dog did something very unusual. I would expect that the dog to hike around the area where everyone was located and maybe find Yuki very close by. And Yuki was 5 years old. Easily she could hike 5 miles based on our research. Now 90% of the kids 5 years old and younger would be found in a radius of about 2 miles. Well, the dog got on the search, and the dog walked into the deepest part of the forest, way in there, and stopped at this one location. Police looked around, couldn't figure it out, said, "That's very odd. There's nothing here. There's no plants that are toppled. There's no tracks. There's no nothing." The dog just stopped, indicating that the scent trail stopped. 5 p.m., more searchers were needed, and the police called for the fire department to respond. And they got firemen from all throughout the island. And the police set up a grid response search to look for Yuki. And they decided that they weren't going to focus just on that area where the scent trail stopped, but search all the way down through the region. At 9 p.m., the search and rescue stopped for the day. Now, they made a mistake here in my mind. These kind of instances where you've got a very young person missing in a wooded area that probably somewhat contained should put a couple people in there to just sit all night and listen. See if you hear anything, see if you see anything. Maybe start a big bonfire up by where the event was held. They didn't do any of that. And again, when you live in a very congested area like most of Japan, and you have these small areas where there's woods, you're not really used to doing searches in those kind of environments. The next day, April 30th, police came in mass. They brought 4 additional dogs. And again, they were put on Yuki's scent. At different times during the day, the dogs all searched for her. Right near where the dogs were searching was a place called Tanby Lake. Police decided that needed to be drained just in case she went in. Her mom said that she would never go in there because she told her to stay away from the lake, and Yuki was very polite and wouldn't have gone around there. But they drained it. They got big pumps in and they drained the lake. What they found when they drained the lake was a very muddy, mushy area at the bottom. And they said, well, it's possible that a body could sink in the mud. So they put a couple policemen in there and they searched the muddy area for 2 days. The lake wasn't very big. It was more of a pond. They didn't find anything. They didn't find Yuki. But at the end of that second day of searching, April 30th, all of the dogs remarkably did the identical same thing. They all searched to the exact same spot in the forest and stopped. Very few times have I heard this, but that to me is revealing. Witnesses said that they saw one hiker with a backpack that they thought must have been sleeping way out in the woods walk by. They said the backpack was big, it had a lot of stuff in it. Some people were concerned that maybe Yuki was stuffed in the back of the backpack. Yuki weighed 34 pounds. There was a lot of rumors about what might have happened here. Some people said, well, they think she was picked up by an eagle at the spot where the dog searched to. Well, a biologist commented on that and said, no, eagles can pick up to maybe 5, maybe 10 pounds if they're swooping down. But he said there's no chance that an eagle on flat ground could pick up a 34-year-old child or a 34-pound child. So that was discounted. Then there was conjecture that all of the police dogs were wrong and that spot that they stopped at meant nothing. I don't think so. I think that spot meant something. Not sure what to even think about that statement, but I don't buy into that at all. But on this incident, where she disappeared was near that pond, near water. You have a point of separation between her and her mom. You have the woods, missing in a wooded environment. You have dogs that can't find her on a scent trail. Scent trail just stops in one spot. And then you have the worst thing. Yuki was never found. They searched for many days. And they kept trying to amp it up. The pond, the woods, grid search. They searched all the way to the coast, thinking maybe she went there. But the scent trail stopped there, in the middle of the woods. Now, between you and me and the fence post, stopping in the middle of the woods, a little 5-year-old girl, why would she wander out of view of her mom and her sister? Now, Japanese authorities, 5 months after this incident, there was a big show on Japanese TV that tried to analyze what happened here. And they brought up all the same points I just brought up to you. Eagle, bad dogs, maybe human abduction. Never a suspect. Never anyone questioned as a suspect. Everybody that was at the event was accounted for and interviewed by the police as they had a name of all the families. Nobody saw anything unusual of those families. That in itself is weird. So Japanese police went forward just within the last 5 years, and they did an age progression work on what Yuki would look like today. This is Yuki today if she was still alive. Again, she was 5 years old in 1985. So right now, today, she'd be about 44 years old. She was a pretty young girl then, and she would be a pretty young lady today. I can only imagine how bad her dad and her mom feel that they lost a beautiful young girl. And her dad having to leave to go to work and not be at the event. It brings up another point. I've said this before, and it's not lost on me. Many times when young kids disappear, the father is either not home or not with the group when the person disappears. And I really don't know what to make of that. It's getting to the point now where pretty soon it's going to be a new profile point. The male, alpha male in the family isn't there. Just the facts, folks. That's all I could say. Yuki Onishi, 5 years old, April 29th, 1985. Shikoku, Japan. Next case. I've talked to you a lot about German heritage and about German PhDs, doctors, physicists that seem to disappear much more frequently than everybody else. And people say, oh, you know, there's a lot of German people in this world and it's not a big deal. Here's a fact for you. There's 6 German physicists who have disappeared that I can find in the world. Just 6 physicists. That's it. Each time they're German. What are those odds? What are those odds? Could it be random? I don't think so. Could it be coincidence? I don't think so. Now this case involves Dr. Ernst Priesner, 60 years old, when he went missing July 19th, 1994 in the German Alps north of Grenau. He was employed at the time by the Max Planck Institute for Behavioral Physiology. He had a PhD in biology and he was considered an expert on pheromone biology, specifically on butterflies. Pheromone is the odor that animals put out that usually attract others of the opposite sex. Now, Ernst was raised in Klagenfurt in Austria, but he was German heritage. He spent a good part of his life in Germany. He studied biology at the University of Vienna. In 1959, he received his PhD, and he worked for the Vienna Zoological Institute at the University of Göttingen. To say that Ernst was smart would be a mass understatement. He went into an arena where nobody knew anything, really, way back then. Now, let me show you where he disappeared. So here's the border, Germany. And then this is Grenau. And he was in this area of the Alps north. Everyone got it? In '65, he went to work for the Max Planck Institute. And there were a lot of brilliant people working at the Institute then. In 1983, he received the Guy Lusek Humboldt Award for his work in pheromone research. It was a worldwide award. Came with a lot of pomp and circumstance, and every PhD wants to get it. From 1977 through 1990, Ernst traveled internationally speaking on pheromones and reproductivity. This is what he looked like. He developed several new theories related to his work. He discovered 21 different pheromones, and he loved to go into the woods because the woods was a place where he could set his traps and catch butterflies and other insects and work on their pheromone research later on. Well, he set his traps in the Alps and would later return weeks later, recover the specimens, and most of the time he went alone. It was a time to get away from the helter-skelter of city life. He liked the quietness of the Alps. It was a place to reflect, just him and his work. He was described in very good shape, and he routinely traveled through the Austrian and Bavarian Alps. Nobody thought or gave it 2 cents when he went there, because it was always about getting new specimens, doing his work. It was just like a normal part of a PhD's work schedule. Well, then in July 19th, 1994, he traveled to a trap study location near Garnisch, north of Granavau. He'd set traps there weeks earlier and was returning to collect the specimens in the same area where I showed you Granau. Told friends that he'd be back by July 20th. He didn't return. His friends called the German police, explained where he was. They went out and found his car. Nothing was abnormal. They knew the approximate place where he was going. A couple of German policemen walked into the area and were surprised not to find anything. No Ernst, no camping equipment, no nothing. The policemen pulled back, called for more help, and they were sent helicopters to assist. The helicopters flew the area for 3 days, thinking that 60 years old, older man, maybe he died and his body's somewhere. So they're looking for a body. They don't see anything. They decide that they're going to search the area grid style, shoulder to shoulder. And they send in several hundred ground pounders and they searched the area from the car going out to a study area. Nothing. They decide they're going to do one more day of helicopter searches with FLIR. Nothing. Search and rescue people were confused. They were confused by the lack of evidence of Ernst even being in the area. His car was there. But it didn't seem like anything else was really disturbed. They didn't find any camping gear that he would use to spend the night. Didn't find anyone in the area that saw him. It was confusing. They questioned friends and associates, and they said nothing was abnormal. When you start to think about things like this, first thing that comes to mind is maybe mental health. Did he want to commit suicide? They said no way. He was totally into his work. He made these trips regularly, especially during the summer months when he could get into these areas. So they questioned them about the area. Area was normal. Mental health, normal. His, did he have dementia, early dementia? Nothing. So what did the police have? They've got nothing really. And again, isn't the border here between Austria and Germany wasn't that far away? But to not find anything, no, that's not normal. And to think that he was lost, they said that would not have happened. He had been here too many times. He knew the area like you know your backyard. The chances of him getting lost were zero. All right, so that's out of the equation. And the reason why that's important, do they need to keep expanding the search zone? Somebody lost, maybe takes a wrong turn, thinks they're walking out and they go deeper into the woods. No, that didn't happen. So if you have a confined area and you can't find your victim and you know that they should be there, what are the choices, folks? When you know that there's a lot of German PhDs that have disappeared, as I've told you in the past, and now we have another German PhD that essentially disappears off the face of the earth, what can you say? And this is the reason why we're telling this story. Because it fits so many brilliant Germans that have disappeared. I can't even begin to tell you. But I appreciate you being here. My books, I've written 3 books on Bigfoot. I've written 12 books on missing people. And you can get them all at our bookstore online, NA, North America, nabigfootsearch.com. Do not buy my books from Amazon. You'll get ripped off. Those are resellers that have bought them from us. We didn't know who they were. And they post them on Amazon at 3, 4, 5 times the price of what you could buy them for in my store. Do not go there. Also, remember, check and make sure you're subscribed to our channel. The number of people that have been unsubscribed is off the chart. It's obvious to us. Amazon is trying to destroy our channel. I don't know why, but it's blatantly obvious. And we need you to be subscribed. We need you to be here. Thanks for all the comments you've made on the videos. Greatly appreciated. I respond to many of them. I read every one. If you know a case about a missing person that fits our profile, send that case to CanAm Missing, like Canadian American, CanAm Missing at yahoo.com. I'll get that. One of our other people will get it. We'll look at it and we'll do the research to try to get it up. Many of the cases I talk about right here, I only know about them because of you. We obviously don't know about some of these, so it takes you to tell us. I know some of you think, oh, it's an old case, that's boring. Not boring. Remember when you were in school and you studied history? You study history for a reason. Boom. Thanks again. One more thing. Be kind. Smile when you're out. You see somebody that's in distress, somebody that drops a bunch of things on the floor in the kitchen, at the supermarket, help them. The small gestures go a long way toward keeping our society stable and people happy. Paulides out.